Alright, this story time's a little short, but I thought I'd record it and put it up online. Let's see if anyone else has any similar stories. I grew up in somewhat of a nice area, and this was back when I was in high school. I went to school with a lot of other very affluential people, kids mostly. A lot of kids that had more than enough to, you know, be happy. Though not a single one of them I ever saw really smiling. So, kind of a weird take on it. But this was back when I was maybe a junior. I had just gotten my license not that long ago. Maybe I had it for about 3 months already. And at the time, I had a white pickup truck as like a basically daily driver to get back and forth from school, home, sometimes to do other things. Because I had a truck, I used to load crap up in the back of it all the time. And I would either offer to move stuff for people completely for free, except sometimes for gas money, or I would load it up with a bunch of like scrap metal and recyclings and stuff like that, take that down, make a couple bucks of cash. But at the time, I had just gotten it kind of somewhat cleaned up a little bit and whatnot. I was driving it here and there, and I parked it in my neighborhood. And one night, one of my buddies decides to come over and mess with my truck. And, like, you tell me if anyone's ever had people mess with your personal things that, there's no reason to be honest. It's annoying, especially when people don't take your stuff seriously, because I was one of the first people in my friend groups to get a car. So I was constantly asked, hey, can you give me a ride here? Hey, do you mind like driving me somewhere? Like, hey, if I gave you like $5, could you like take me to the mall or something like that? And I'm like, from where I live, it's like a good 10-minute shot, which, for $5, but I'm not an Uber, so, and I don't want to be driving people around. But anyways, I had one of my buddies jump into my truck while I wasn't there. I think I was home. I was doing something, I can't remember, but they got into my truck. They texted me saying, hey, guess what? So I texted them back saying, all right, what? And they sent me a picture of my dash from the inside. And I look at the picture, and I can tell that it's from a view from my truck in the neighborhood. So I immediately jump out. I throw a jacket on. I only had like PJ bottoms on. I throw a jacket to throw over myself. It's like December. I run out there. Sure enough, my buddy and his friend, who I didn't like because he disrespected me on multiple different occasions, like without saying certain things, he just intended on making me feel lesser than him. Because this dude, for the sake of the story, we're gonna call it Dan. We're gonna call him Dan. The guy I don't like, his name is Dan. All right, my friend who's from the neighborhood, we're gonna call them Al. Keep it pretty simple. Al and Dan. Al I liked because we did have some commonalities. Dan I didn't because he um, did not grow up anywhere or any what somewhat like how we did. Um, Literally born with a silver spoon in his mouth, so had nothing to complain about. Complained all the time. Um, had a lot of friends complain that he had nobody. Nobody. Um, had a good thing with school. Complained that it stressed him out too much, but his grades were good, so I'm guessing at that point, I know they were going into their senior year. Al wasn't, but Dan was because he was in his senior year. He was going to college, and he was currently looking at colleges. But anyways, I don't know. They were both sitting in my truck, and when I went out there to go look, yeah, sure enough, I see both of them sitting inside. One, Al's in the driver's seat, Dan's in the passenger. And I go over there, and I knock on the door. I try opening the door. They fucking locked my truck on me so that I couldn't get in. So I'm knocking on the door for a bit, and I'm telling them, hey, yo, get out of my truck. Like, get out of my truck. And literally, I'm watching them go through shit like my glove box and stuff, and like my cup holders and shit. And I was getting fucking annoyed. Like, really, really annoyed. because it's like, first of all, it's like 9:30 at night. It's cold. It's like a weekday. I don't want to be dealing with their dumbasses right now. And yeah, I'm getting fed up. And at that point, I don't know, but I don't know why, but Al starts honking on the horn and stuff like that, and kind of like being obnoxious and shit. And sure enough, he attracts the attention of a cop that was just down the street. And he comes through the neighborhood and sees me knocking on the door, immediately points the spotlight at me, and then I hear the siren flicker off, and that's when I know that, like, you know, all right, now the shit's not funny anymore. And sure enough, Al and Dan are still being fuckheads, but, like, they notice the cop and then they stop being fuckheads, obviously. They get out of my truck. I tell the officers that, hey, I'm sorry, I'm just here with a couple friends right now. They're just kind of being clowns and stuff. And I explained to him, and as I'm explaining to the cop what's going on, he's, like, looking at me, and then he's looking at them, and he tells them not to move, like, to stay exactly where they are. And he motions for them to come closer. And I just tell him my thing, and he just says, okay, no problem, step aside. And then he talks to them, I guess, and Dan's, like, super, like, nervous because he never had to talk to a cop before in terms of, like, being actually in trouble or something, which, in my opinion, we weren't, because I didn't say that we were in trouble. I just told them they were my friends, they were messing around and stuff. So I covered them, but they didn't hear me. So when I ended up going back to the truck, I just wanted to check that everything was okay. I put my stuff back away, and the cop, before I even got to my truck, said, hold on, don't go anywhere either, and was telling me basically just not to go anywhere. So I stayed right there and basically came up next to them. Like, I didn't leave. I guess he didn't want us to leave his site, which, if you're an officer, maybe you'll understand why that protocol is so, like, strict. But anyways, we had the cop talk to us, say that they could hear horn. They could hear the horn going off from the main boulevard of our street, and, like, turn down the road. And he ran into a lady that was complaining about hearing a horn going off. And he went down to go check it out because he was seeing other neighbors basically seeing other neighbors popping their heads out of the window, or their doors and whatnot. And he told us that, hey, I really can't have you doing this late at night. Just leave it alone. He asked who owns the vehicle. I said it's mine. I told him, I said I have ownership and registration. For some reason, he wanted to see that I actually owned it, so he made me go grab my registration. Which at the time was in my mom's name because my mom was technically paying for the insurance, so it wasn't exactly mine.
World's best cup of coffee.
My mom was paying for the insurance, so when he looked at the card and saw my mom's name, he immediately said, okay, so who's this? Whose name is that? I told him it was my mom's name. And I thought he was going to get my mom to verify, but I just told him to say my mom's name, and he asked me what's her name, and I said, no. This happens, and he lets us go. He's pretty chill for the most part afterwards. He just tells us to, not keep messing around. We're disturbing the peace in the neighborhood, whatever. Dan and Al both go. Like, I guess Dan drove, so then him and Al he drove Al back, and then he went home. And then, for the most part, everything else was calm that night. The next day, when I saw both of them, I first told Al, I said, if you or anyone else ever, like, invades my property again, and, like, restricts me from getting to my own property, basically withholding it from me, which, I mean, I couldn't get inside. That was the thing that was bothering me. I couldn't get inside my own vehicle. Alright. That bothered me. And I told him next time around, or if you ever think about doing it again, I'll just say that, yeah, they broke in. I don't know who they are, and they're just some kids from the neighborhood. and I'll make up some bullshit. I'll make up some BS just to get them in more trouble. Like they fucking annoyed the shit out of me, and when they, the way they did that was just out of pocket. But whatever. That's pretty much the end of my story. It was very random. It was something that I experienced. It was something that I've thought about from time to time. Because now I just think it was funny. Obviously, I was annoyed because of the circumstances and shit like that. Whatever. But now I think it's kind of funny. Anyways, that's my short tidbit. I didn't feel like writing that out, so I'm gonna post this up and I'm gonna see if anyone can relate. Put some comments down below. See if I can get any kind of viewership or attention for this. I don't know. I'm really just giving this a bold shot in the dark, and I'm gonna just keep uploading videos randomly. Whatever. We'll see how it goes.